All right, I'm calling this meeting to order at 7 o'clock. If you would all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is an open meeting. It has been noted as such. Would you join me for a moment of silence? Cherry, would you do a roll call for us, please?
Erica Connor.
Here.
Joel Fredericks.
Here.
Dale Porter.
Here.
Art Schneider.
I am here.
Vito Schwartz.
Excused.
Carolyn Simon.
Here.
Greg Burt.
Here.
Eve Waddle.
Here.
Barry Winchalke here. Yankel. Here. And Madeline. Here.
Do we have any citizens' comments? We're on the fence. We're on the fence.
No, it's not only agenda items.
Okay, thank you. We're going to carry out, and we're going to jump right into some presentations that we have for this evening. We will start with the student rep report.
All right. It's pretty short compared to past ones, because with Thanksgiving break and everything. So at Section Elementary, they celebrated Veterans Day on Friday, November 11th. Commemorations included students dressing in red, white, and blue and camo with special morning announcements by the section student council, followed by taps being played by 6th grade trumpeters. First grade students had a special visit from a local veteran, Jim Parr, to learn more about the significance and importance of Veterans Day. Section also held section night at the Milwaukee Admirals game on Saturday, November 19th. It was a great night, and with nearly 100 section Hawks and family members in attendance.
Fourth graders at Big Bend were visited by the American honey queen. She taught students all about the life of a honeybee and why they are super important to ecosystems and agriculture. Everyone enjoyed sampling some honey.
Well, the community education program has had a very active 2 months of programming. They saw 104 adults participating in 8 different offerings and 55 youth participating in 3 different offerings held at the middle schools. MHS opened doors on Sundays in November for the indoor winter walk, and over a dozen participants came in each time to walk around together. And a new slate of offerings for the winter-spring of 2023 has already been posted and is seeing enrollment as the Triad newsletter hits mailboxes.
Prairie View families were invited to join the first family book club. The first book that was read was Little House in the Big Woods by Laura Ingalls Wilder. Students were able to sign up for the book club, purchase the book on their own, and join a Facebook group created to have discussions about the book. The book club was kicked off with a trip to Old World, Wisconsin, and it was wrapped up with a special lunch with Mrs. Mack, where students completed a quick craft and received a copy of the Birch Bark House. They would like to give a huge thank you to the Prairie View PTO who purchased the Birch Bark House books for students, and Kendra Walter for organizing the adorable wooden cabin ornaments. The Prairie View family has recently donated money for the Coins for Kids campaign. The money that was donated will be spent on toys for families in need during the upcoming holiday season. Student advisory members will be going shopping on December 1st to buy all the toys, and a total of $1,700 was raised.
At Eagleville, students also participated in the Little House in the Big Woods book club. They had a lot of fun with that, and they're looking forward to the second family book club that will be kicking off after Thanksgiving, when students will be reading The One and Only Ivan. Students from MHS Spanish Club visited Eagleville to teach students about Dia de los Muertos. They made crafts and tried some pan de muerto and horchata. You were...
Yeah, I was there for that.
I remember that.
As a kid.
Yeah, as a kid. To conclude the students' science unit on plant life cycles, Eagleville held an all-school STEM challenge where students worked through the design process in teams of mixed grades to design different plants and plant parts that could survive on Plantopia.
Rolling Hills collaborated with the Town of Mukwonago Police Department during its annual Turkey Trot, which took place on Tuesday, November 22nd. They would like to thank the Elegant Farmer for donating supplies, and they would like to thank MHS senior Logan Hansen for dressing up as the turkey this year. Rolling Hills Student Council held an online fundraiser to support Waukesha County's Adopt a Family Christmas Clearing Council. Through the outstanding generosity of Rolling Hills families, proceeds from the fundraiser will be used to purchase holiday gifts for many families around Waukesha County. Target store in Waukesha on Sunset will also give an additional 10% off current prices to help the donations go even further. They would like to thank the teachers Elena McFarland and Melissa Barton for organizing this act of kindness.
And 2 weeks ago, many PVMS students as well as MHS students performed in the Singing in Wisconsin at Carroll University. Singing in Wisconsin brings young musicians together for a day of just singing and connection with different students and conductors. And so over 120 Mukwonago students participated. And then in honor of Veterans Day, students were encouraged to take some time to think about what it truly means to show courage and thank veterans for their commitment, courage, and sacrifice, as last month the character trait at Parkview was courage.
At Clarendon, the Glow Run was a huge success. With everyone's help, the school raised a total of $12,540. The students earned 6 school-wide incentives, 1 Glow Run incentive. Mrs. Kaplan and friends dyed their hair. On the 1-year anniversary of the Waukesha Parade tragedy, the LCC Comfort Dogs came for a visit to share their love and support for the school members as we honor and remember our friend Jackson. And lastly, congratulations to Mrs. Hansen for being recognized the Educator of the Month by the Mukwonago Rotary Club. Everyone is super proud of you.
And it's not on here, but I'd also like to say congrats to Grace Carmen for being Student of the Month at MHS.
Thank you very much. All right, and then we will move into our strategic plan updates.
So I think we're going to start with Dustin Lehman, and he's going to speak about college and career readiness. And then we'll be followed by Stephanie Blue, Ben Casso, and others to talk about our student achievement.
All right, good evening, everyone. How is everyone doing?
Hi, Dustin.
Good.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you as well. Okay, so I don't have a lot of big ticket things from our presentation in June. Excuse me. But we do have our new data that was submitted in September. So again, our goal statement is equipping all students with the opportunities and skills necessary to determine and pursue their desired post-graduation plans. So with that, we created our SMART objective. So by the June of 2020, 25% of our graduating seniors will get at least 1 industry-recognized certification by the time they graduate from Mukwonago. And in June of 2020, we had 165 certifications earned by 101 different students. So we met our goal in that first year. June of 21 happened. We missed out an entire spring of certification, so we dipped. We went down to just under 20% of our students graduating with an IRC. And then we came back fairly strong. We're still under our goal, though. 402 certifications were earned this last year. So we increased the amount of certifications by over 160%. And we have 165 different students graduating with an industry-recognized certification for the class of 22. So that year 3 SMART objective was for half of our graduating seniors to leave with at least 1 industry-recognized certification. And like I said, we hit 41%, but 402 certifications. So there were 402 graduates last year and 402 certifications, 165 different students. So moving forward, while our year 3 objective is done, we are still continuing that progress. For the class of 23, we are adding a few more certifications that students can earn through our career and technical education program, with ProStart being one of them. And you'll see later on in my presentation that we have a new class where they will earn that certification, as well as up to 12 technical college credits as well. Career Connections, that is through our carpentry program. MSSC, FANUC, Robot Operator, and SACA, those are all manufacturing certifications, and we have a teacher doing some training this summer for that. And then CompTIA is going to be our new computer science certifications that students will earn through the IT Academy or the classes that we offer in computer science. So how are we going to continue to build on on our goal here. So we're going to continue to assess and refine the ACP process, continue to expand our community partnerships to create those really valuable work and capstone experiences for all of our students. Review articulated learning pathways and expand academy options. I will talk about our Future Educator Academy. Increase parent education about the pathways and options for K through 12. And then we always are looking to assess the learning spaces to see how they can best meet our students' needs. So continue to move forward with our, assess and refine our ACP process. Many of you come to our Muck Ready initiatives that we have. We have multiple events a year. We're always looking to try to continue to bring those experiences to our high school to make it accessible to all of our students. And like I said, back in June, we are moving to a lot of portfolios in our, like our work-based learning classes and a lot of our career-based learning classes. Our partnerships, we are always trying to build that. We are creating a pretty large footprint now in Southeast Wisconsin with our digital job board. We have just under 300 jobs posted. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. That means there's a lot of jobs out there. We have a lot of students working as well. There's just more jobs than we have students right now. But we do have multiple other schools and more schools that are looking to join on as well. So with that, we are just creating an easier way for our industry partners to be able to reach the students in our area. So if I don't have enough manufacturing students, hopefully Muskego has a kid that can work at IDC, or maybe a student at Kettle Moraine, or we can fill in some of those positions that are available in Oconomowoc, things like that. That is the goal. Our offsite experiences, we are pretty much full. We're back to full strength, especially our healthcare. Our Academy of Medical Professions has been going out on their field trips, and they are 100% back with those experiences, so that has been great for our academy. And then last year, we had our Transportation Career Showcase here at Mukwonago, handed that off to Oak Creek. They're gonna run that now. I'm bringing manufacturing to Mukwonago this spring, so that will be a new opportunity for all of our students. So we're always looking to expand our pathways and to refine them and to expand our academy options. And it's a agenda item later on with our Future Teacher Academy. That is our next one that we are looking to bring in. We have some new classes that we are looking to bring in next year as well with Pro Start. So it's a level 2. That's where students can earn up to 12 technical college credits with the certification that our instructor has, as well as some industry recognized certifications. Our capstone for Academy of Medical Professions, we are looking to turn that into biomedical innovation, which is a Project Lead the Way class, excuse me, and then an advanced innovations class, which will build off of that engineering pathway that we have. Right now we have 3 levels, so we have students that get through their junior year, and then they have really not a 4th level of engineering that that they can take. So that advanced innovations is going to be a blend of an advanced engineering and an advanced manufacturing class. And in that class, that is also where they can earn some of those manufacturing certifications through like the robotics. But also that class is being built around a community piece. So how can you solve a problem within the community? So that should be a great class for us. AMP has 96 students in it this year, so it has grown each year and it is thriving. And then, like I said, our Future Teacher Academy is underway. Tomorrow we have a work session with our staff, and then they will be coming back to report later on in December to the board. So this is always one of those things where we're trying to better ourselves all the time, trying to inform our community and our parents and our students of the opportunities that we have. We're doing that through our different social media campaigns, work with Ben a lot to get those communications out to our community, especially with our CTE. In February, we have our CTE month, and we try to do as much as we can to really showcase all the great things that are happening that the students are doing at our schools. And then a big push is to try to, how can we track that data? So we have so many great things going on in Mukwonago, but how can we share that with all of our stakeholders? So we have some things in the works with Qualtrics and how we can better create some dashboards to really showcase those great things happening. And so we can always continuously improve, see where our gaps are as well. So Not a lot new. I just have some new data with our industry recognized certification. So does anyone have any questions about that portion?
I apologize if I missed it. Was this in our packet for today, this presentation?
I don't believe it
No,
was.
it's not. I feel like I maybe asked this, and I just simply don't remember the answer, and if you don't have the answer with you today, don't worry about it. The 50% goal for certifications out of our students, was that an arbitrary number? I know it was part of our strategic plan at the time when we formed it years ago. I mean, 41% is pretty fantastic, and it's been huge growth. That's why I'm just kind of wondering, like,
And that's what Stephanie and I talked about again today, that in 2019 when we created this, 50% was, we were shooting as high as we could, we thought. I'm really happy with 41%. So, but still not happy we didn't make the 50%.
I just wasn't sure if
but
there
yeah.
was just we're gonna throw a number out there and we're gonna see if we can get it, or if there was some sort of science behind picking.
We threw a high
percent.
number out there.
Okay.
Is there any comparative schools that are offering similar programs to compare that 50% to?
So there's a lot of schools that are, there's money tied to this. So naturally, every school is going to try to build as many as they can in. There are some schools that are earning quite a few certifications. But they are also very large school districts. I can look that up. I would like to know that data, to be honest with you, to see like what percentage of their graduates are earning these certifications. Because I know there's a lot of great schools in our area that are offering quite a few certifications, but we are doing a really good job right now with that.
Thanks.
Anybody else?
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Dustin.
So it probably wasn't the best planning on my part to have the school board meeting on the Monday following the Thanksgiving break. So I can tell you that these guys were working on these presentations not only today, but throughout the Thanksgiving break, and that's why you don't have it. We obviously were off school Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of last week. So with the new superintendent next year, we're going to make sure that the board meeting isn't immediately following the Thanksgiving break.
We can send it to you and make sure it gets linked in too, so if you want to go back that way and get it too.
Thank you.
Okay, so second part of the goal tonight, we're going to be a little bit more probably long-winded for you, is on the Learning for All goal, the fourth one that we're giving an update on the last couple of months. And every time that we present this goal as part of the strategic plan, last time we gave you kind of internal data that we were collecting, and we'd see where we landed with it once we got our external data back. So we are wrapping in our external data to this update. So the intent really with it is that we're going to present some report card data and explain why our schools landed where they did with the report card. As part of that, some of our forward exam data, our Aspire data, and our ACT data from the different levels. And then we do still want to do a breakdown because in our strategic plan we have literacy and math goals. So we're going to break that data down for you then tonight into how we're doing for literacy as a K-12 system and how we're doing with math. There are a lot of things to celebrate tonight, a ton of things, but we absolutely have work to do. So we're going to share too with you also some of the places that we really need to dig in and work really hard in the next year to see better results next year where we're not happy with what we're seeing. So.
All right, we'll get to it here. I'm thrown off. Normally I'm sitting where she's sitting, so pardon me. So this is my annual report to you regarding our accountability report cards, and it's just nice that we can fold this into the strategic plan now. So able to kill a couple of birds with one stone here. Just a couple of reminders about the DPI accountability report cards before we dig into the actual data. Just a reminder that these are required by state statute. All districts and schools in the state that are publicly funded receive accountability report cards, whether they're a public school or a private school that takes school choice funds. All of them receive report cards. These report cards are compiled using multiple data points over multiple years. Essentially, it's a 3-year look back that we're talking about. And not only does it include the data points that Stephanie mentioned, like forward exam, Aspire, ACT, it also includes things like attendance and graduation rates as well. Basically, what DPI does is they take the different data points and they compile 4 separate, what they call priority areas that we take a look at. Subcategories on the report card, if you will. The first is achievement, and that's straightforward. How our students performed. Do we get a lot of kids to advanced and proficient? Where did kids fall basic and below basic? A second category is growth, and while we are generally a high-achieving district, on the report cards, we need to do more than that. We also need to grow our students, even our high-achieving students. And so we look at growth year over year as compared to other students that are demographically like ours in Mukwonago. And that's a second of the areas. The third area there is called target group outcomes. That's a new area that was on the report card first last year. It is an area that focuses on our most struggling learners in ELA and math, basically our bottom 25%. To me, it's a really good priority area because if we're doing what's right for kids, we are spending extra attention looking at our struggling learners, trying to make sure that we're growing them and getting them as far as we can in our system. Fourth area is on track to graduation. That's essentially graduation rates, attendance. They also pay some special attention to 3rd grade ELA results and 8th grade math. Research shows that those are key data indicators in terms of the health of our system. They take all of that together. Districts and schools get 1 of 5 ratings, significantly exceeds expectations on the top end, does not meet expectations on the bottom end. I would be remiss in pointing out we do take these seriously. These are important tools to us when we think about continuous improvement. They're valid tools. They're not perfect, we know that, but I keep telling our staff, I keep telling our teachers, our administrators, these are comprised of the stuff that matters. It's the assessment data. If we're doing well in report cards, it's because we're doing our jobs well, because we're educating our students and that we're doing right by them. So we do take these seriously, and they are important tools in terms of what we look at. So let's get into the data here. And on the chart that you have, you can see at the top there's the district score for this year, and that's a 78.2. That is an increase of 0.4 of a point over last year, and that lands us at exceeds expectations. A little context for you on that district rating. There are 12 districts, including us, that we take a look at within Waukesha County, and then also East Troy and Palmyra Eagle as neighbors. Only 3 of those districts, including ours, saw an increase in the report card over last year. So there was definitely a backslide over this past year for a number of districts. Also, there were only 13 districts in the whole state when you look at 367 K-12 public school districts that got to significantly exceeds expectations this year. So only 13 that reached that very top category. We were in that next group of only 136 districts. That's actually down from 189 last year. So we saw a slight increase. We're pleased with that. We swam against the current in the state this past year. And so, like I said, we're pleased with that. As you look further down that chart, you see that the elementary buildings, all 6 of them attained scores to get them in the significantly exceeds expectations category. And so we're thrilled to be able to report that tonight. Next on the list, there's Parkview Middle School. They were our biggest point gainer of all of our schools this year. They gained 4 4/10 points over last year. That keeps them in the exceeds expectations category. And then we have Mukwonago High School, which lost 3 points over last year, and they dropped to meets expectations. We'll talk a little bit more about the high school as this presentation goes on here, because we definitely want to pay some special attention to that piece. So every year, I like to also break down some rankings in terms of where we fall. As a reminder, I said that we have 367 K-12 public districts in the state that we compare ourselves to. That overall score there, we're 32nd out of those 367 districts. Again, talking about swimming against the current, that's up 33 spots over last year, and that's just with a 0.4 of a point increase. So again, something that we can be pleased with. In terms of overall achievement, 23rd place ranking, that's up 2 from last year. ELA was also up 2 spots from last year. Math was one area where we gave back a few spots. We're down to 21st, still a good ranking. I added 2 this year, student growth and target group. Let me explain why I added those. Those are a little bit lower scores. Those are areas of focus for us. Our buildings have really embraced looking at those 2 target areas. And for good reason. We want to grow our students. Even if we're a high achieving district, we want to continue to grow them from year to year, day to day, lesson to lesson. And so you see, we have some work to do there if we want that ranking to match the other rankings we have there. We did make an improvement year over year, but 194th is probably not where we want to sit. Target group, we're at 75th. Again, probably a little lower than what we'd like to see, but we also picked up 60 points, 60 ranking spots, I should say, over last year. So we're pleased with that. On track for graduation is the other main priority area, and that was an increase of 4 spots, and that got us up to 18th in the rankings. So questions on any of those data points, either on either of these last 2 slides? Okay.
Have the metrics to qualify for any of these things changed as they're in the grading system?
Not this year.
Okay.
Last year was a complete revision, so last year was the first year of a kind of a different formula that they used.
Okay.
So, but this year versus last year, no, same formula. Just one piece, and this is not related specifically to achievement data, but something that Stephanie and I felt was just important to remind everybody about. I took some information from Tom's annual budget information and just overlaid that revenue cap information and showed those 12 districts that I talked about. We're the one over on the far right. We placed kind of in the middle of this pack, if you will, but a lot of districts did this with quite a bit more revenue, quite a bit more funding. And so you take a look at Muskego, Norway at the top there, just with a slightly higher revenue cap. And if we had that revenue cap, we'd be pulling in almost $2 million more. You scoot all the way down to the bottom there, just looking at New Berlin. They have fairly decent number fewer students than we have, and they operate with more than $3.5 million on an annual basis. So again, getting these results while being pretty fiscally conservative, I think is something to be proud of for all of us in the room. We're taking the funding that we have and really making it go a long way. Did you want to introduce this one, or we'll just go into the assessment data?
Yep.
All right, so let's jump into English language arts data here too. And as Stephanie mentioned, there are 3 major tests that we look at. There's a 4th that's not on here because we have such a small number of students. It's called the dynamic learning maps. That is fewer than 1% of our students who have the most significant cognitive disabilities take that. It's not a very large number, so you won't see that. But these are the 3 big ones. Forward exam, again, for students in grades 3 through 8, you can see that last year, across all of those grades, we had 59.5% of our students that were either advanced or proficient. That's essentially making benchmark, and that was an increase of almost 6 points from the previous year. That's the highest percent of advanced and proficient students that we've had since the implementation of forward exam in 15-16. So definitely something to be proud of there. ACT Aspire is our 9th and 10th grade test, or I should say was. That will be replaced this year by the pre-ACT test for 9th and 10th graders. Similar type of test within the ACT family. 50% of our students last year were advanced or proficient. That was an increase of 2.6% from the preceding year. That was also the highest level of achievement since 17-18. So a couple of relatively high watermarks there. You can also see the statewide comparisons there as well. In terms of the ACT test, we had an average ACT ELA score of 19.2. That was an increase of about 0.5 point. You can see the state average there stayed flat over last year. Embedded in these, and these are included in your packet, so I don't have to spend a lot of time on these, are just graphical representations of those regional comps that I talked about. So you see the 12 schools here and districts here. You can also see the statewide average and where that lays in here as well. This is for forward exam. This is ACT Aspire. This should actually say, well, that should actually be ACT Aspire. Did I skip a slide? I did. There's ACT Aspire. And so you can see ACT Aspire. This, I break out the specific high schools too. Rather than just putting whole districts up there, there are some demographic differences between some of the different high schools, different districts that have multiple high schools. So it's sometimes nice to break those out. And then ACT performance here on the last of the 3 ELA slides.
Okay, so then we wanted to discuss some of the work, thanks, some of the work that we believe that we're doing as a district that is seeing some of the higher scores that we've gotten on the language arts portion of the exams. to this point. Just a reminder, and I know I've mentioned this before, the first two bullet points kind of go together. If you follow reading at all like we do, there is a definite, it's called the science of reading, research that has come out recently that is taking over everything on how education systems are teaching students how to read. And we have made some moves in the last few years. The first one because of ESSER funds that we were able to use for this, to definitely make some gains in K2 literacy that we feel really good about. We not only have had every teacher who touches a child learning how to read in K2 do the letters training, which is very much grounded in the science of reading, but we also have a resource in Super Kids that very much follows that science of reading too. So where we see a lot of districts in our area scrambling on to catch up to the research that's coming out and how a student's brain learns how to work or learns how to read, we feel very good about the fact that we're able to almost be in a refinement stage and use our letters training from last year to actually apply a lot of the things we've learned. So our kids are picking up on that. We really view our K2 reading program as students learning how to read, and then our 3-6 program on students using their reading to gain knowledge and comprehension for things. In addition to that, we've done quite a few 312 really, or at least starting this at the high school this year, quite a bit of standards alignment. And I know I've talked about that before, but again, I want to remind everyone the importance of doing this work, and that is that one of the ways that districts get very, very strong is that we have a guaranteed and viable curriculum for students, that it doesn't matter which 3rd grade classroom in our district that a student sits in or which 9th grade classroom, that there are things that we are guaranteeing as a system that our students will learn. It's not dependent upon the teacher in that classroom, but we've decided as a system what things those students should learn, and we're guaranteeing that those will be in there. So we are working very hard. This is a place that the addition of Michelle Ziegler in the elementary coordinator role, it's been huge in. She was with teams all summer taking units in 3-6 that we did not feel directly aligned with standards, therefore students were growing the way they needed to, and she was digging in and rewriting units with them, so we make sure that students are getting what we want them to be getting in correlation with the standards. Our 7-8 team has done a lot of work, led by Ingrid Schultz, our CAT chair, and April Frankman, our instructional coach there, and the ELA team has done a lot of work there. I think that is a huge part of the gains that we saw in their data, and we are starting that work now at the high school, where we're hoping to see those same gains. We've also done some heavy-duty work in the last couple of years. Ben noticed a few years ago that we had a low score, or a lower score than what we would want on our text-dependent analysis in the forward exam. That's the written portion where students are asked to read something and then write about that. So it's very much a writing test. It's 16% of the forward exam in 3-8, and Ben brought to the team and said, I think we could do better in this, and I think it would make a difference. Our instructional coaches took it from there after Ben pointed that out and did some amazing work with our teachers. Definitely we have seen some gains there that we feel are helping the literacy scores go up over time. We feel like through you guys that you've approved some positions that I just want to mention that I do feel like we don't ever want to look at this data and go, why did we make this gain, and have it be by chance. So as part of the strategic plan, we try to recognize where are we using money well, where are we seeing gains from things that we've put into place. So a few positions that I think have made a huge difference. One of them was the ESSER positions that the board approved, these 3-year positions through the ESSER funds. We've been able to really target students that we feel had fallen behind, one per building at the elementary level that had fallen behind in math or reading due to the pandemic, and really feel like those positions have helped us create gains. Last year, we had those positions work with the 30th to 60th percentile students. This year, we're telling we're telling the buildings to have those positions follow the data. So for instance, at Clarendon, we have moved the ESSER position almost full-time to 4th grade classrooms because we didn't necessarily like what we were seeing from 3rd grade data at Clarendon, concerned that we might have some lingering effects from missing education. And so we're seeing some good gains there. And so very much following the data and making sure that we're using those 3-year positions well to make sure we're in a good place when that is over. A few years ago, the board approved to split the instructional coaches into a full-time position and the full-time interventionists then. So our full-time interventionists work with students in Tier 2 and Tier 3, 30th percentile and below. If you followed those women, all women in the position, but if you followed those women through the day, you'd wonder how they have any time to breathe. They're with students, helping them make gains in reading on a regular basis. Our instructional coaches, we have 1 per building with reading licenses. That has been a huge impact in working with our teachers to make sure we have the best instructional practices to teach literacy. Michelle's position, I want to add to that because of the curriculum work we can do connected with that. I don't know if I've mentioned to the board before, but another way we chose to use the ESSER funds is we have 17 teachers in our district right now through UW-Whitewater who are getting their reading licenses with the help of some ESSER funds. 7 of those are secondary teachers. So when we look at scores not being where we want at the secondary level, 7 of our secondary teachers are getting reading licenses in the district. 5 of those are special ed teachers. So we are really hoping to make gains with the knowledge base that those teachers are gaining and how they're able to bring that back into buildings and work with our students differently. We have a definite grammar and vocab focus that started at the middle school and high school this year that we hope to see some gains from. We, for the first time in quite some time, have a more formalized way that we're teaching vocab and soon to be grammar at the high school because we really feel like that is part of the ACT score, not being where we want it to be in ELA. And so there is a definite focus. I strongly believe one of the fastest ways we can make gains on our ACT is through our ELA score and doing the right work around there. So Christy Hogan, our CAT chair, and I are digging in around that with the ELA team to make sure that we're doing the right work there at the high school. And then finally, all of our buildings do have a pretty solid reading goal based on their data in their building and what they're choosing to focus on, with the idea that you need to continue to move reading scores, but look at your building and where you need to put that focus. Questions on any of that?
Stephanie, what year are we in? Next year, our 3rd year?
Talk on the microphone, please, Sherry.
3rd year of the ESSER positions?
Yeah.
We're in the 3rd year. Yep. 3rd year of the reading ESSER positions.
All right, let's talk math. So same format, forward exam, grades 3 through 8. You can see that we had about 62.5% of our students who were advanced and proficient. That was an increase of 5.5%. That's still down a little bit from our historical trends there. But again, that was an increase that sort of paralleled the state. At 9th and 10th grade on ACT Aspire, we had 49.5% of our students who were advanced and proficient. That was an increase of almost 4 points from the previous year. And at 11th grade on the ACT test, we had a score increase of 0.4 of a point, bringing that average math score up to 20.6. Interestingly there, the state average actually dropped by 1/10 of a point. So interesting data point to look at there. Same graphs, again, these are in your packets as well, or at least were put in your digital packets earlier today. You can see forward exam where we rank again with the regional comps that we have. And then the same layout here. I'll try not to double click again, but ACT Aspire there, again with the regional high schools. And then the ACT, oops, it looks like I duplicated a slide there. That should read math. So I will fix that for you in your packets and resend that to you. It's amazing we look at this about 18,000 times and then we still have something duplicated. I'll blame the Thanksgiving turkey that Sean mentioned that we were using while working on this. So anyway, I'll let Stephanie talk about the district math initiatives.
So math were really the majority of the stuff, where a lot of the stuff on the list with the literacy have been things that have been put into place the last 3 years really and building. Math is newer as a focus for us, clearly needs to be, so a lot of this stuff is really being put into place last year and this year that we're hoping to see the gains in the data. So we're doing the same standards alignment for a guaranteed and viable curriculum with K-9 right now. Our elementary teachers on November 8th had a full day professional development day, and we really used that day to dig into our standards alignment and unpacking the standards, so we make sure that, again, we're guaranteeing that no matter what third grade classroom a student is in, that we are guaranteeing that they're gonna learn the skills that they need to learn as being a third grade student in math or whatever grade level it is. We did add, for 2 years with ESSER funds, 3 math coach positions. Another position I wish you could follow around for the day, 3 incredibly talented, again, women who were hired for this position, but incredibly talented. They're helping to get into classrooms and really take a look at our instructional practice that we're doing with math. And so as part of them being in classrooms really the month of September, we met at the end of September for a big powwow and chose that the instructional practices we're gonna work on this year in math classrooms, K-9 in the district, are student engagement in math and small groups, the use of small groups in teaching math, so reteaching, pre-teaching, seeing that students didn't get something from the data that we're looking at and bringing them back. So they're working hard on that in their coaching cycles in math classrooms. And professional development we'll do this year. We have put tons of effort and money into purchasing literacy intervention materials the last couple of years. We are doing that also in math to make sure that when students are not getting it the first time, that we have the correct materials in place to help make sure that we can make gains with those students. We also did a little bit of a restructure of algebra classes this year. In looking at the data, we had some concerns about the fact, we did kind of a data delve last year and looked at where students were going into math, going into high school. So how many of our students were going into Algebra Sem 1 freshman year, and then Algebra Sem 2 sophomore year, and then getting their third year of math and geometry, where we would love them to get to advanced algebra. We had a group of students that we found are entering high school in pre-algebra, which is really our 8th grade, for some students, our 8th grade math class. And then we did a correlation of the data of where students ended up junior year and what they were getting on the ACT. So I might have to look at my numbers here because I'm not gonna remember. But we found that students that only got as far as algebra by junior year because of the track they were on for math, we're scoring somewhere between a 12 and a 15 on the ACT for math. Makes sense, maybe you would say. Students that aren't very good in math, yep, they're going to score lower in math, but I think as a system, it's part of our job to make sure that we are providing them, that we're placing them in a place that will make them the most successful and get as far as they can in math. So we're taking a look at that. Students that got just as far as geometry instead of advanced algebra as junior year scored anywhere between an 11 and an 18 on the ACT. So we are looking at restructure. We did look at this year. We've got some, we're trying some things with our algebra classes to have the students be in algebra, which will put them on track to be algebra, geometry, and advanced algebra, but put a ton of support in our algebra classes so we can get them there. That's going very, very well. Our math coach, who is 7, 8, 9, is spending a decent amount of time in those classes. We called them algebra with support, but they're algebra classes. But we're changing up instructionally how kids are learning math so we can keep kids moving through and hopefully get them as high as we can in high school. We also have been reviewing the last couple of years the placement structure and how we decide where students are going in math at Parkview and MHS, and continue to do that. So again, we're pushing kids, not drowning them, but pushing them, and then providing support from the bottom to get them where we want them to be. Parkview and MHS have intervention classes, and part of what Alyssa, the math coach in 789, is doing also is spending quite a bit of time helping to build those classes the way that they should be to support students who are struggling in math. So again, putting those students in algebra freshman year, but then what does it look like to even create another math class that they're in where we're supporting their needs that way? And same thing in 7th and 8th grade. Both Parkview and MHS, and this might sound a little bit strange to some of you, but actually built math department goals. Historically, we've done literacy goals across the entire building, and Luke, Jim, and their teams had discussions with their math teachers this year that if we're not liking what we're seeing from math, maybe we should let them work on math. And so they have very strong math goals this year that I am hoping will make a difference in discussions and where we're moving kids. And then last thing I did want to mention, we are going to offer, again through ESSER funds, AVMR training for our elementary teachers this summer, voluntary, but that's the equivalent of letters training in literacy, but offer that in math as a way for them to learn some new instructional practices in teaching of math. Questions on that?
Question 72, is there a math goal? You'd cited juniors get 12 to 15 average ACT if they're algebra by junior year, geometry 11 to 18. Is there a goal that you say this is really what we expect as a whole to be at?
Students in math?
Yeah, on the ACT.
On the ACT? That's a tough question, right? Because we do have varying abilities, and to say.
Right, and that's why when you use those numbers, I mean, that's a range of 3 points. What do you want to see?
So we would like all of our students to be somewhere more in the 19 to 24 range as if you're looking at the mid. That's what we want to shoot much more toward. And I think it's doable if we look at some comparable districts around us who have done some math work that we're doing now. I think it's doable.
Did you have data for juniors that are in advanced algebra and their range in ACT?
We do. I would need to get back with you on that. I did not mark, but yeah, we looked literally at every math class and where students were at. So that's something I could definitely share with you. I mean, I have the calc numbers. I could share the whole table with you. I had just pulled the numbers from the students that we probably need to look at where we're placing them in high school. But I'll share that graph with you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Joel? Okay.
All right, and I did want to say that in the actual digital packet that I gave you, that graph was correct. So it's not correct there, but it is in the packet that you have if you want to look at that ACT Aspire math. One other quick graph just to show you the ACT composite score. We didn't really have a place to fill that in within ELA or math, but we did want to share this with you. Our average ACT score on the statewide administration, the one that we do in March, was a 20.7 for Mukwonago High School. That was up by about a 0.5 point over the preceding year as well. So then that is a nice segue into just a little bit of a deeper conversation about Mukwonago High School.
So, and Jim is here, so he is here to answer any questions if you have them. 2 questions I can't answer or Ben can't answer about the high school. But again, we'd be remiss to not talk a little bit more than just literacy and math about our high school because of the report card score this year. So know that the following conversations and things are happening, particularly at our high school. Again, having very focused goals on reading and math, really digging down and looking at what is it that our students who are not achieving proficiency in reading and math, who are not where we would want them to be, what is it that they need to work at? So departments have created those. We're really looking at rigor in all of our classes. As you know, we did a great thing 5 years ago by putting in a lot of electives. We've got obviously a thriving CTE department and are super proud of that. We've got a great art department, music department, thorough electives, But we do need to make sure that we've got reading and math rigor in all classes, that no matter what path a student is taking, that we are ensuring that there is reading and math rigor in that class too, and that we're paying attention to those skills in those classes. So that's some work we're looking at and will do. So the high school, for instance, has a text complexity goal this year. It's amazing what some of our music teachers, CTE teachers, art teachers are doing within that text complexity goal to raise the rigor of reading levels in those classes. The standards alignment I already mentioned, that's happening at the high school also. Math and science structure, we are having some conversations like I just shared with you about math, just about the sequence of that. Next year we start doing a research year in 7-12 science, and in science our students are only at the high school required to take biology. It is the only science class they are that they have to take once they get to high school. So I do think we need to spend some time looking at the structure, and again, if there's going to be choice, that whatever those students are choicing into, that we have sophomore, junior, and then senior year, that there's still rigor to those classes and what we're asking them to do. And so we are taking a look at that. You would notice a lot of districts around us, students have to take biology, chemistry, and physics. Not suggesting that's where we're gonna land or the way we're gonna go in Mukwonago, but I do think we definitely need to look and make sure that no matter what path the kids are choosing, that there's a level of rigor to that and what they're being asked to do. Tier 1 instruction reaching all students, so we are looking at our target groups once they hit the high school and working to having conversations about when we see that students are not succeeding at the high school, what are we doing in our ELA classes, our math classes, our science classes, our social studies classes to make sure that that Tier 1 instruction is reaching all students. We did add this year, again, thank you for that. I think it will make a difference, a full-time reading interventionist at MHS. She's doing some great stuff. Bryn Rohde, one of our assistant principals, new assistant principals at the high school, has taken on the intervention work at the high school, and they're having some great conversations about what intervention should look like when they get to the high school. We're also looking into some data on students that are with us still in interventions at the high school. Why? Because the last thing that we want as a system is a student that's been with us K-12 to still be in interventions in the high school. So we're doing some exploring just on why is that. We're also finding out in that data that a decent amount of our kids that are in interventions at the high school have moved in, but what does it look like to support that then? Because it doesn't matter if they've moved in, they're our students now, and what are we doing for them? We do notice at the high school there's been discussion about the fact that our data starting to go down at the high school coincides with the when the new schedule was put in. That's no longer a brand new schedule, but the 5-year downward trend minus this year that dipped up or went up a little bit does coincide with the schedule going in. And so Jim and his team are doing a review of the schedule. Survey recently went out regarding flex time. What are we doing with that time in the building? Are we using it for the right purposes? And just reviewing our instructional minutes at the high school and whether or not that truly could have an impact on what we're seeing with the data. We're doing lots of data analysis, and then finally we are teams, recently we did the pre-ACT. We got really thorough data back from the pre-ACT for our juniors, and we have teams of teachers that are meeting in the next, actually before Christmas break, to really analyze that data and do something with it before our students take the ACT officially in March. I'm not sure, I think we have given testing before and hoped that just the experience of taking the test would make them do better. I don't think that's the case. I think we need to do a better job of using that data, and the team is doing a great job with that. So those are some of the things we're having discussions around and really digging in and working at the high school.
A couple questions. The schedule that you're talking about, what was the previous schedule, or is that somewhere you guys could, because I don't know what the previous schedule at the high school was or what changes you're even talking about.
So the previous schedule was a 7-period day. And so typically, students did not have very many options with all the required classes to take electives. And so we moved to a different type of schedule 5 years ago that gave students, instead of 6 options if they would take a study hall, they would give them 7 opportunities to take a class along with a study hall if they wanted to, or and if they didn't want a study hall, it would increase to 8 periods a day. But those periods don't meet every day. They have is it drop 2 or drop 3, Jim? I should know this, but drop 3. So they meet with 5 of their classes each day, but they don't meet every day in that class. So that's why Jim and his team is studying, could there be a better schedule out there that still gives students more opportunities to take electives?
I fear sometimes with that schedule that what we did was not only did we take instructional minutes away from students, but then we also made them meeting 3 days a week. And that double whammy could have an impact in what we're seeing the last 5 years in scores.
I think if you
Good.
talk to our math teachers, they'll tell you that they're not a fan of meeting with their students 3 days a week.
Right.
They'd like to have them at least 4.
And then, where is the breakdown for the high school report card where we can say, like, these are the X areas that we're graded on, these are the areas where we improved, this is where we dropped points, and this is how we got to the score? Because I'd love to see that. Is that coming up, or?
Yep.
Okay.
So in your packets, actually, you'll have the cover sheets for the high school report card. On our website would be the full version. You can also find the full version on the DPI website that will break that down. If you have the cover sheet handy on your digital packet, what I can tell you there is that in each of those 4 priority areas, the high school dropped a few points. Particularly growth and target group outcomes are the 2 areas that I know in working with Jim and his team, we want to make improvements. Those are 2 areas where if we can improve student growth, if we can improve performance of our bottom quartile, we'll see gains in that achievement priority area as well. I will say that achievement priority area, that 70.4 score there you see, actually puts the high school in about the 85th percentile rank of high schools in the state. So again, the achievement, the raw achievement, is not in and of itself necessarily the issue here. What we need to work on is improving student growth and making sure that when they enter the high school, they're continuing on that trajectory. And then, of course, providing better interventions, better resources, more academic success for our lowest achieving students, which would be in that target group outcomes.
Quick question for you guys. We have a pretty big open enrollment. Does that affect some scores? And I'm not trying to be, I'm just asking.
Were you in our meeting at the high school today?
I was not,
Because
but I was invited.
Actually. So that, as we explore different things, we noticed, like, actually on the report card, you can see demographic information as well. And at Mukwonago High School, they have an open enrollment percent of 12.2. When we look at comparable high schools, like Muskego High School, for example, their open enrollment is, what was it, like 3.3? I was going to say it was in the 3 range, significantly lower. Now, mind you, these open enrollment students, that 12.2%, they don't all come to the high school for freshman year. We have a number of those kids starting as kindergartners with us in the district. But it is a significantly higher number than some other comparable high schools. Again, they're still our students, whether they live here and are resident students or they come here for any number of different reasons, whether it's, again, because of our thriving CTE program or they want opportunities in athletics that maybe other high schools can't offer, or whatever the case might be, they're still our kids. But yeah, that is a piece. As we have conversations and we start peeling back layers, Stephanie mentioned, like, what are we going to do for those students that join us at grade 7 or at grade 9? Because they come to us perhaps from a parochial school, perhaps from another school district. They might not have the same background that kids that we have in the system do. So that's another piece that we're starting to peel back layers on as well, trying to determine, because those kids still count for us down the road. And so, taking a look at that too. So great question.
So do you have a percentage of
how many of those open enrollment students came to us in the later grades? I mean, that I would like to see.
We can get that.
Because all our elementaries are exceeding, and they're doing a great job. And it's, you know,
I don't have an
you're
exact
dumping a lot
percentage.
on.
Yeah, I don't have an exact percentage from you. The other thing to keep in mind that doesn't show up in percent in open enrollment would be students who join us from parochial schools as well. We know that we have some number that join us at 7th grade
Right.
or at 9th grade. They're resident students. So that's another piece that you wouldn't even see in that open enrollment
Yeah.
piece as well. But yeah, we can track that data down and break that apart.
Anybody else?
Thank you for sticking with us. I know that was long, but this is what we're here for, right, as a district?
Exactly.
So want to make sure you know what we're doing. I'd be remiss if I didn't finish any presentation on student learning and thanking our teachers. They're the ones day in and day out that are doing the hard work. We can talk it, but we're not doing it. So I know you guys know this, but we have a phenomenal teaching staff and some great administrators really digging into this work. So I always think it's important that we recognize them at this point too.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay, we are going to move into the consent agenda. I am looking for approval of school board meeting minutes from October 24th, 2022, approval of our board work session minutes from October 24th as well, and then approval of vouchers 139232 to 139581 in the amount totaling 1.9 million and change, in receipts for October 2022 totaling 336,000 and change. As well as we have a summer 2023 MHS Spanish trip to Costa Rica. Do I have any questions or concerns? Okay, hearing none, they are approved by consent. All right, so we have 2 committee updates today, and we'll start with Learning Committee.
Okay, we talked about, let me get to the right place here. Okay. We talked a little bit about the future of the Educators Academy, and they're going to bring that information in December. They're meeting tomorrow, and they're going to bring it to us in December for possible approval on that for next year.
Correct. We'll
Correct?
bring to the Student Learning Committee next Monday, and then the full board December 19th.
And we also talked about 7 to 12 counseling curriculum, and that is those flex times at the high school. And so they have been working on the lessons and working on resources they can use during those lessons and trying to get those to be more consistent and valuable in the process of the whole scheme of things. New course proposals. There were quite a few new course proposals, and we have moved those all to the board here for later in the agenda. And we went through quite a few Neola policies with a couple that are coming back next year, and next month, and the rest will come up in for approval.
And I think what we'll do tonight, we're asking that we'll just bring all those Neola policies back next month when we have some more time. The policies that were placed in the board docs tonight didn't have the different options checked off.
You guys worked way too hard on the options to not have them.
So we'll bring them back. And then I would like to talk to the Learning Committee about that open enrollment policy next week as well.
And the Costa Rica trip we just passed. That was what we did at our meeting.
I do want to mention to the board that I had told you last month that we would be doing the approval for the human growth and development. Because you've been a little bit busy and had a huge time commitment, I will be sending that out tomorrow morning instead. I really didn't think it was fair the month of November to have you doing everything that you've been doing and looking at that. So I'll send that out tomorrow morning, and that'll go forth in December instead.
All right, thank you. And then Finance and Facility Committee.
Tom gave us an update on a discussion he had with the 4K community partners. He gave us a general update on the Fund 73 investment. In his direct report, I covered overall budget update, salary and benefits budget, and then the cash balance. We also went through the statewide referendum results. Andy gave us an update on buildings and grounds, and we also had an update on the healthcare clinic results from the survey we did to the staff.
Okay, so, thank you, Joel. We will move into action items, but what I'm hearing you say, Sean, is we are not voting on any of these Neola
That's
policy
correct.
updates. Okay, so then we will just start with appointments, resignations, and retirements.
Good evening. For appointments, we have Erica Kalaki, Parkview Middle School business teacher, Frederick Jonas, MHS Rise teacher. For resignations, we have Randall Rideout, MHS Rise teacher, and Madeline Strickler, MHS business and marketing teacher.
I'd like to make a motion we approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And then we will move down to the PVMS and MHS new course proposals for 23-24.
So we did have a list of new courses again this year that we looked at for the high school and the middle school, went through and talked about them all at Student Learning Committee. The Student Learning Committee sent all of them forward for approval. Keep in mind that approving them at this point is just simply then that we can build them. The actual curriculum will come back to you in August for full approval.
Is there any chance we can get those before August, just in case there's any questions or concerns, so we're not like pushed against the wall, like
No, that
class
makes
starting
sense.
in like 10 days?
Yeah, we'll look at moving that up until July.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll talk to the teachers that have the courses.
I will make a motion that we approve these course proposals.
I'll second.
I don't know.
I don't care.
Dale.
Give it to
Sure.
Dale.
Gary, go for
Dale.
it.
Any other questions or comments on these?
I'm sorry, who has that second then?
Jerry.
I give it to Jerry.
Flip a coin. Okay, no comments, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. We'll move right into unfinished business with our superintendent report.
Sure, this is typically the time of year that we start to talk about the calendar for the following school year. So we have started to work on some drafts for the 23-24 calendar. Typically, we shoot for December as our goal, and if we can't meet that goal in December, we make sure that we communicate with our families on what the major vacation dates will be, and I think we can do that. But we do have some unique challenges with next year's calendar that we are trying to work through with various different options. I put a draft proposal in the board docs for just a brief discussion tonight. I'm going to bring some more drafts to the Personnel Committee in December, but a couple of different challenges. I know typically this school board has wanted us to finish school as early as possible in June, and so if you take a look at the calendar for 2024, the first Friday in June is June 7. So we're going to try to meet that goal for the last day of school and avoid going into the week of the 10th, 11th, and 12th, et cetera. But that's challenging to do. One of the challenges that we have this year, or for next year, excuse me, is that September 1st, and remember, public schools in the state of Wisconsin have to start on September 1 or later. Private schools can start sooner, such as Waukesha Memorial, who started on August 17 of this year. We have to start September 1 or later. September 1 typically is not a good day on Friday, is to start
That's a big
the
week.
school year. So we're taking a look at a couple of different options there.
Is that freshman only?
Well,
Yeah, that would be.
what on this calendar, we actually have a possible idea of where we would have freshmen, 7th grade, and our kindergarten students who typically do an orientation type of program on that first day. They would come on the Thursday, August 31st. And then our first day of school for everybody else would be September 1. That's not real popular, but we're considering it, again, trying to get done by that June 7th date. And then the other day that's a challenge is Tuesday, April 2nd. That will be the next major election. And as you know, Big Bend and Rolling Hills are used as election sites. on April 2nd, that will be a presidential primary. It will also be a possible referendum date. This is 2024, so not this coming April, but the following April. So that's probably a day we need to have off, but it also follows our spring break.
We could get rid of spring break.
Good.
Yeah, says the guy leaving the board.
You want thoughts? Could I have a thought?
So I didn't want to get into a big discussion
Oh, no.
because we're going to do that next month, but if you had, go ahead. I think it's okay.
As a parent, I hear parents all the time saying, like, why do we start before Labor Day? Because everyone goes out of town and pulls their kids out of school anyway for that Friday. So if that's the first day of school, then it kills people like up
Mhm.
north last
Mhm. Mhm.
hurrah. I don't know what the 2 dates in January are because we have back-to-back staff development on the 15th of January and the 25th of January. Could we make the first day of school a staff development day and give our staff more time?
The 15th is Martin Luther King Day.
Okay. Oh, it says staff development day on here. I didn't put that together.
It's why we have
Okay.
no students on that day, though.
Okay.
So
So January 15th is?
January 15th is Martin Luther King Day. That's what you're asking about, the 2 days in January? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And then the 25th is the semester break for the secondary schools. So that is a day that students don't come to school and teachers work on that day to finalize final exams
Okay.
and also prepare for new courses. Many high school teachers who are teaching electives have brand new courses for the second semester. So that's the day that
Got it.
they have off to prepare for that. Those are traditionally days that we've taken off. Haven't had students,
Okay.
teachers work.
Does parents or community give input into anything? I don't know if you want even input, but
So at various times, we've done surveys on
I just wonder how many
on the
people
calendar.
would say,
We
like,
don't
we're
do
not
that
gonna-
every year,
Yeah.
but for example, we have a common spring break. And typically, we have spring break, which is the last full week of March. Sometimes it moves a little bit,
Yeah.
but that we surveyed parents on that, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
And I know that the staff has a committee that they just met a couple weeks ago,
Mhm.
talking about the calendar as well, so staff gives input. But you had said, I know this board likes to be out as soon as possible, but let's say this board was like, yeah, do Monday, Tuesday, and a half day on Wednesday and be done the 12th. Does that alleviate any struggles in your planning, or does it not?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Yeah. And I don't know why that wouldn't make sense. Yeah.
But we're going to talk about this more next month, you said?
Right.
Absolutely,
Learn
right.
personal.
Okay, moving on.
So
I'm less concerned.
does Craig get to decide?
I
that
don't
we
know.
move on?
Dale hit the gavel. That is Craig's gavel over there.
Craig's.
If you are ready to move on, Sean,
I
we can
am
go to the
ready.
school board election.
So I included a memo, and we do this each year, on important dates for the upcoming school board election. This spring, the school board election will be April 4th. As you know, each year we have 3 open school board seats. And so this year, Art and Steve and Joel are up for re-election. And the dates there on when you need to decide if you are not going to run or if you are going to run are in there. Other dates for the deadline for other people that want to run, possible primary election, that's all included in there. So if you have a question, I'm happy to answer those on school board elections. Otherwise, if we're good, I'll move on.
Go ahead.
And then the Village of Vernon has officially requested that they be allowed to continue to use Big Bend Elementary as an election site. And so that would include possible primary in February of this coming year of 2023, and also the April 4th election date. So I need to talk to Sean Waller, the principal. Tom just got this request today. And so I need to talk to Sean Waller at Big Bend if he thinks that we can have, obviously we're going to have school on those days, before we can discuss whether or not they can hold the elections there. We need to have that discussion with Waller.
Yeah, the November election there. That's where I voted. It was chaos.
It was all day chaos.
So,
So I guess I had heard that it went very well. I'm-
well, it went well.
well.
I mean, it was just, yes, there's
It
no,
looked like,
it was
yeah.
so full.
It
was
looked like pickup
busy.
time all day long, where there was like cars out in the
Busy,
street.
good.
And it
good
ran
busy
well.
chaos.
It just was,
Good kid.
it was pickup all day.
Positive
Yeah,
chaos.
As a poll worker, it's
Yeah.
always chaos.
yeah,
Trust me.
but it was really busy.
Sorry
I just-
to
I couldn't
alarm
imagine
you.
if we had staff, because that's their parking lot where everyone would be coming in and out
Right.
and, or overflow staff parking lot,
Yeah.
I should say. But it would have been, I don't know where
difficult to-
people would park
Sure.
otherwise.
So more to come on that.
Yeah.
And then just a reminder that in December, our meeting schedule is a little different. So next Monday will be Learning Committee, but then the following Monday on the 12th of December, we'll have Personnel and Finance and Facilities meeting. So Personnel will go at 5, Finance and Facilities either at 6 or 6:30, depending upon the length of the agenda for Personnel. I'll get back to you on that ASAP. And then on the 19th, which is the third Monday, typically we meet on the fourth Monday, but that's the 26th of December, right after Christmas, so we're going to meet on the 19th for the board meeting. We would like to have a board work session dedicated to discussing the future of 4K in the district at 6 o'clock on the 19th. And I had emailed you this already, so hopefully we're all good with that.
I believe we're good.
All right, great. And then just my correspondence and recognition for November. Please join me in thanking several donors. First, Keith and Melanie Morgan, who are Eagleville parents, and their company Neurotech Foundation, a $10,000 donation to Eagleville to help to renovate the gymnasium there. So we greatly appreciate that from the Morgans. Also, the community donors who helped to make Parkview in the Dark really another smashing success, and we had the students here in October present on that, but Blue Bay Restaurant, Educators Credit Union, Edward Jones, Espresso Love Coffee, Dragonfly Embroidery, Fork in the Road, IDC, Lions Club, Lynch, Martin's Plumbing and Heating, The Music Cafe, The Porter Family, Quiltagious, Rivercrest Tire and Auto Service, Art Snyder, Topline Promotions, Craig Vertz, and then Your Personal Gardener. So lots of school board members included in there, so thanks.
Steve, were you, did we miss you somehow? Steve Waddle's family? Okay. Okay.
So take it back.
Yeah,
I
that,
scratched Craig off too.
And then I know the students mentioned, but I just, a couple of things about the Rotary Teacher of the Month, or one thing about the Rotary Teacher of the Month. Caitlin Hansen, who's a teacher at Clarendon. Caitlin is a MHS graduate. She's also a Clarendon alum, and she actually is teaching in the same classroom that she's teaching first grade in the same classroom that she attended first grade in at Clarendon.
Cool.
So she does a fantastic job. I saw her Rotary Club presentation. It was wonderful. Our Teacher of the Month, congrats to Beth Engelking at Prairie View and Eagleville. She was named the Art Teacher of the Month by the Wisconsin Art Education Association. So she's done a fantastic job for us for a number of years.
awesome.
And then Madeline already mentioned that Grace Carmen was the Kiwanis Student of the Month for November, and I put her accomplishments, which are lengthy, and as a matter of fact, I
Yeah,
couldn't
she's
even
a-
include them all. I
she's
took
a
some
true
off.
slacker.
So,
Wow.
great job.
Good for her.
So, and then one last comment, and our principals have been really working hard to make sure that we have our parents participating in more and more school activities, getting them into our buildings, and that's a fantastic job by Anna Mack, who's our LTS at Prairie View and Eagleville, with that book club, the parent book club, student book club. They did the Little House in the Big Woods this last month, and then they did that field trip on a Saturday to Old World, Wisconsin. And I know Colleen Hoyne, principal at Eagleville, her whole family went, and Val Voss and her kids and her family went as well to that field trip to Old World on a Saturday. So great job. And that's all I have.
Thank you. I did forget to mention within President Reports, I'll say it now, WASB convention is coming up January 18th to the 20th. So if you would like to and plan to attend, you can let Should Julie know, or is Laura?
Laura returned today.
Wonderful.
So more good news there, excellent news. And so she'll be happy to register you. You can let me know or Laura know.
Okay, perfect. All right, then I am looking for a motion to move into executive session.
I'll make that motion.